What if smoking is one of the oldest things humans have ever done? Not a modern habit, not a colonial import, but something written into us long before civilization even existed. Picture this. It's 50,000 BC. The sun just dropped below the horizon. There's no light except fire, no noise except the wind and the crack of burning wood. You're sitting with your people, and the smoke is rolling straight into your face. And somewhere in that moment, one of your ancestors looked at that smoke and thought, "What if I did that on purpose?" Here's what almost nobody tells you. Smoking doesn't start with tobacco. It doesn't start with trade routes or indigenous ceremonies or anything you learned in school. The desire to deliberately inhale smoke may be hardwired into human biology at a level that predates every civilization we've ever studied, and the evidence behind that idea is genuinely insane. Let's get into it. If that already got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's coming next goes even deeper than you'd expect. And drop a comment below. Did you ever imagine smoking could be this ancient? I read every single one. To understand where smoking really begins, you have to go back way further than any cigarette, any pipe, or any ceremony. You have to go back to fire itself. The oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire used by our ancestors comes from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, and it dates back roughly 1 million years. That wasn't Homo sapiens sitting around those flames. That was Homo erectus, an earlier version of us with a heavier brow and a smaller brain, but doing something remarkably familiar, gathering around a fire in the dark. And here's what that really means. For hundreds of thousands of years, every single human and pre-human ancestor who lived near a fire, which was all of them, inhaled smoke every single day. Not occasionally, constantly. It was as unavoidable as breathing itself. Smoke was just part of what the air was. But here's where the story takes a turn that most people never see coming. Not all of that smoke was just burning wood. When you combust organic matter, you don't just get carbon dioxide. You get a complex cocktail of compounds, alkaloids, terpenes, psychoactive chemicals that vary depending entirely on what's burning. And across Africa, Asia, and Europe, psychoactive plants grew wild. They always have. Which means that at some point around some ancient fire, someone inhaled smoke from one of those plants and felt something shift inside them and had absolutely no idea why. Our ancestors were getting accidentally high around the campfire, and the most remarkable part of that isn't the accident. It's what happened inside the brain when it did, because the human brain didn't reject those compounds. It recognized them, and that changes everything about what comes next. So the brain was already wired for it. But when does speculation end and hard evidence begin? That's where archaeology comes in, and the oldest direct evidence of intentional smoking we've found takes us to the Pamir Mountains in Central Asia. Around 500 BC, excavators discovered wooden braziers containing superheated stones, coated in cannabis residue, and not just any cannabis. This was high-THC cannabis, deliberately selected, placed in a ritual burial context. This wasn't hemp used for rope or food. Someone chose that specific plant for that specific moment with clear intention behind it. Now, here's the part that should make you think twice about every timeline you've ever heard. Organic material almost never survives thousands of years in the ground. Stone tools from 3 million years ago are still sitting in museum cases because stone is basically indestructible. But a wooden pipe packed with dried herbs, gone in a few centuries under normal conditions. A leather pouch full of plant material, dissolved back into the earth long before any archaeologist ever showed up. The absence of older physical evidence doesn't mean intentional smoking didn't happen earlier. It just means the evidence didn't survive. And then there's Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian writing in the 5th century BC. Described the Scythians, a nomadic people from the Eurasian steppe, setting up small enclosed tents, heating stones until they glowed, throwing hemp seeds onto those stones, and sitting inside inhaling the smoke. He wrote that they howled with pleasure. For centuries, historians assumed he was exaggerating. Then archaeologists excavated Scythian burial mounds and found exactly what he described. Bronze braziers, heated stones, hemp residue. The man wasn't embellishing. He was reporting. That confirmation alone is extraordinary. But there's a discovery made in 2019 that pushed the entire timeline back even further, and almost nobody has heard about it. That 2019 discovery is exactly what changes everything. In the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah, archaeologists uncovered a fireplace dating back 12,000 years, and inside it, they found concentrated seeds of Nicotiana attenuata, a wild tobacco plant native to the Americas. This wasn't accidental contamination. The seeds were deliberately placed, and this predates any known pottery or pipe in the entire region, which means these people were using tobacco before they even had a vessel to smoke it from. That single fireplace quietly rewrote the timeline of tobacco use in the Americas by thousands of years. But here's the question that should be sitting in the back of your mind right now. If humans in the Americas were intentionally using tobacco plants 12,000 years ago with no pipes, no tools, no written tradition to follow, what were humans doing with their local psychoactive plants in Africa, Asia, Europe, and Australia at exactly the same time? Because those plants were there too. They always were. This is where researcher Ronald Siegel from UCLA introduced something that fundamentally reframes the entire conversation. He argued that the pursuit of altered states isn't a cultural habit or a social behavior. It's a biological drive. Sitting alongside hunger, thirst, and sex, not metaphorically, literally wired into the brain as a survival-level impulse. And the animal kingdom backs him up completely. Elephants actively seek out fermented fruit. Reindeer in Siberia eat Amanita muscaria, mushrooms, and then deliberately drink each other's urine to recycle the psychoactive compounds that pass through the body intact. This behavior runs so deep that prehistoric humans may have chosen their campsites specifically based on proximity to certain plants, not for food, not for medicine, for exactly what those plants made them feel. Here's where the story takes a turn that almost nobody expects. When most people think about the history of smoking, they picture ritual, ceremony, pleasure, something spiritual or recreational. But before any of that, there's strong evidence that inhaling smoke was, above everything else, a medical practice. The oldest written record we have that comes close to a prescription for inhalation therapy is the Ebers Papyrus, an ancient Egyptian medical document from around 1550 BC. It describes treatments where patients inhaled the smoke of burning herbs, specifically to address throat and lung conditions. The Egyptians weren't just burning things for ceremony. They were using smoke to treat disease. And they weren't alone. Hippocrates, the figure that modern medicine still claims as its founding father, wrote about the inhalation of herbal vapors as a legitimate treatment for pulmonary conditions. Now, before you dismiss that as primitive thinking, consider the logic for a moment. Smoke travels directly into the lungs. If a plant carries medicinal compounds, delivering those compounds via inhalation is one of the most direct and efficient routes possible. That reasoning isn't wrong. It's actually the same reasoning behind every asthma inhaler and every anesthetic gas used in operating rooms today. Across the world and across thousands of years, this same logic kept appearing independently. In India, the ancient Ayurvedic medical system documented a practice called dhumapana, which translates literally as drinking smoke with detailed protocols, specific plants, and defined therapeutic purposes. This wasn't folk medicine scribbled on a cave wall. It was a sophisticated system with structure and intention behind every step. Ancient China, Mesopotamia, Greece, India, in virtually every recorded civilization, inhaled smoke held a recognized place in medicine. The delivery method survived all the way into the modern world, and what those ancient physicians understood about plant compounds and the lungs connects directly to something that's still being studied and debated right now. Until 1492, the entire Old World had never seen tobacco, not once. Then Columbus landed, and somewhere in his journal, there's a passage describing indigenous people carrying what he called glowing sticks, inhaling smoke and releasing it through their nose and mouth. His crew watched, confused, and then, almost inevitably, tried it themselves. That moment was a collision between two completely different relationships with the same plant. And almost nobody talks about what was actually lost in that collision. Because tobacco in the Americas wasn't a habit. It wasn't something people did casually between meals or to pass the time. Archaeological evidence places intentional tobacco use at least 3,500 years back. And given what we now know from that 12,000-year-old fireplace in Utah, the real timeline is likely far older. For those cultures, tobacco was sacred. It was used in healing rituals, in ceremonies of communication with the spiritual world, in formal agreements between tribes. Blowing smoke towards someone wasn't a casual gesture. It was an act of blessing, a transfer of something meaningful and intentional. The idea of smoking as an everyday recreational habit, something you reach for out of boredom or anxiety or routine, that's almost entirely a European invention. When tobacco crossed the Atlantic in the 16th century, it went from sacred plant to exotic curiosity to continental obsession within a few decades. And then the 20th century arrived, and industrialization turned it into something else entirely, a cheap, engineered, chemically enhanced product designed not to offer any experience, but to maximize dependency. The tobacco industry suppressed cancer research, marketed directly to children, paid doctors to endorse their products, and added compounds specifically to deepen addiction. A shaman and a tobacco executive worked with the same plant. Almost nothing else was equal between them, and that gap is one of the most disturbing chapters in the entire history of smoking. So here's the honest answer to the question we started with. We don't know exactly when humans first smoked, and the harder truth is that we probably never will. The physical evidence we have confirms at least 12,000 years of intentional plant inhalation, and every time archaeologists push deeper into the timeline, the number moves further back. The absence of older evidence isn't silence, it's just the sound of organic material that didn't survive long enough to be found. But the underlying impulse, altering consciousness, gathering around fire, sharing ritual, using inhaled smoke as medicine, that behavior is likely as old as fire itself. Think about what fire meant to early humans: warmth, protection, community, and, inevitably, at some point, smoke, plants burning, compounds releasing into the air, someone breathing it in and feeling something shift. The real turning point wasn't the act of smoking. It was the cognitive leap that followed the moment a human brain made the connection. Last time that happened, I felt different. I'm going to do that again. That's not addiction. That's intelligence. This behavior predates agriculture. It predates pottery. It predates every civilization we've ever named or studied. By the time humans anywhere on Earth started writing things down in Egypt, in Mesopotamia, in China, in India, they were already documenting smoking practices that were clearly ancient even then. When recorded history began, this was already old. And that thread runs all the way forward to right now. Fire, smoke, breath. Three things that have connected human beings across every culture, every continent, every era. Whatever your relationship with smoking looks like, whatever brought you to this video, you are part of a story that is older and stranger and more layered than almost anyone realizes. You are doing what humans have always done. If you made it all the way here, that means something. It means you're the kind of person who wants to understand things at a deeper level, not just the surface, but the real story underneath. And that's exactly what this channel is built for. Ancient histories that quietly reshape the way you see the world you're living in right now. So, if this video made you think, if something here genuinely surprised you, drop a comment below and tell me what hit you hardest. Write "still burning" if this story stayed with you. I read every single one, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now and turn on the notification bell, because the next video goes even deeper, and you don't want to miss it. Leave a like before you go. It takes 1 second, and it helps more than you know. And the next video is already on your screen. Click it. You're going to want to see where this goes next.